For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Oh, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Oh, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth, keepers of faith, makers of peace, and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are one.
Welcome, one and all, to the Namakwa Unitarian Universalist Congregation. My name is Laurel Liefert, and I serve as the minister of this justice-loving community of seekers. Issei Barnwell, who composed and was the main singer in that song, expresses so beautifully who we are. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith, makers of peace, wisdom of ages. In our multi-generational congregation, we know that for each child that's born, a morning star rises and tells the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, our grandfather's dreamings, the breath of the ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. And what each of us knows about God is a piece of the truth. And in these times, isn't it good to know that we don't have to do it alone? We're now in our 6th month of virtual Sunday services, which are being recorded and posted on our Namakwa UU website. And Sarah Suriani, our top-notch Zoomer of today, will keep everyone muted, and you will have a chance to unmute in our virtual coffee hour after the service. I don't know whether we have any visitors today, but if you are here for the first time and would like to get more information on our justice-loving congregation, would you please go down to the chat room at the bottom of your screen and type in a way to get in touch with you, and we'll be in touch. In this morning's service, there are 8 of us who last June attended the General Assembly. It was the first ever all virtual General Assembly. And while it was certainly not the same as being physically present with thousands of other UUs from all over the world, it was still very exciting. And so today what we're doing is giving you an overview of some of the more compelling topics that we experienced in the General Assembly we attended. And then for the first time this year, we're going to have a series of services over the course of the next church year that will delve more in depth to these various topics that you'll get a taste of this morning. So the title of our General Assembly this year was Rooted, Inspired, and Ready. And we were invited, and I invite you today to get rooted, inspired, and ready to create a more just and inclusive world where all are welcome. Now, Francey Liefert will invite us into sacred space with our call to worship.
This morning, our nation shares a sorrow too great to wait for our usual time of sharing joys and sorrows as we mourn the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. It is with great sorrow and full-hearted appreciation that we light this candle in her honor. In accordance with the social justice theme of the 2020 UUA General Assembly, may we honor the indigenous people of our continent. We gather here on the traditional land of the Satay, Sutayo, Tsitsita, and Hetenino no Aino people, who we call the Cheyenne and Arapaho, two closely allied nations. We light this chalice in their honor and as a symbol of our inclusive Unitarian Universalist faith. 'Tis sacred ground we walk upon with every step we take. Let us come together now in the spirit of finding the holy in our lives, the sacred in our lives, in our relationships, and in our gathering. Come. Let us worship together. Please recite with me the words of our congregational affirmation on your screen now. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its call. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
was sung by the UU Community Church of Chapel Hill, and I think it's one of the most beautiful songs we have about how to answer love's call. This was the closing hymn to the Friday morning worship at General Assembly that was called "The Future Is Now." And now introducing our first speaker, Elizabeth Fraser, with her reflection called "The Presence of Indigenous Peoples."
Indigenous peoples was one of the themes at General Assembly this year. According to the census, there are 5.2 million Indigenous peoples across the United States. They make up 574 tribes, 231 of which are found in Alaska. According to the World Bank, there are 476 million Indigenous peoples worldwide. That's all the numbers I will throw at you, I promise. The main topic at GA was how the Indigenous people have been treated since the beginning of colonialism, which is a policy or set of policies and practices where political power from one territory exerts control of another territory and its peoples. Colonialism still exists today. Initially, the Indigenous peoples' most recognized loss was the loss of land. But for example, they also lost relationships with neighboring tribes and well-established hunting patterns. More symbolic aspects of their cultures, such as language and religion, were suppressed and sometimes eradicated. Suffering and political oppression has not ceased. It continues today. One example is the Colorado River Project. The project proposal includes building 4 dams along a tributary of the Colorado River. The dam would lie entirely within the Navajo Nation and would also affect the Hopi, the Hualapai, and the Havasupai tribes. It would negatively impact the land, the water, the wildlife, and the cultural resources. Most recently, the proposal was going through the channels in DC, but it sounds as though the Navajo have very little say in the matter. On October 18th, we will expand on facts that you must be aware of in regard to imperialism in the past and the present. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And our next speaker is Sally Henry, who will share her reflection entitled "Marginalized People, Impact and Repair."
While the official title of this year's GA was Rooted, Inspired, and Ready, it seemed to me the predominant theme was social awareness and activism, spotlighting the many groups of marginalized people. There were over 35 workshops, lectures, and activities, all looking critically at how Unitarian Universalists could better understand the lives of marginalized and become more effective allies. Discussions often focused on Black and Indigenous communities, but also addressed the LGBTQ community, people with disabilities, and women's rights. Though it needs to be noted that not very many sessions looked at other people of color, particularly Latinx and South Asians, although a few did. A majority of presenters were individuals from the marginalized populations, including ministers, lay leaders, scholars, authors, and community experts. Obviously, the GA planning folks were trying to highlight and learn from the lives of those who live today's reality. As I attended and reviewed the tapes, I noted 4 focus areas. How issues of marginalized people tie to UU principles. What were the perspectives of marginalized individuals? Why does it matter? And how to, or action steps. Some random takeaways from those 35+ presentations. While Unitarian Universalism proclaims to be an open and inclusive religion, we are actually the least diverse of all mainstream religions. Reparations for past misdoings are rooted in our first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and also the seventh principle, respect for the interdependent web of all in existence. And now the UUA is developing an eighth principle, soon to be released. It includes in part language that states, journeying toward spiritual wholeness is building diverse, multicultural, beloved community, dismantling racism and other oppressions. Do you know that pilgrims and other New England churches, which are forerunners of UUism, yet they not only participated in genocide, but legally authorized slavery? We need to face our own history. Unitarian Universalism is a dynamic religion, and we must continue to evolve, become innovators, and support risk takers, or we will wither. The initial step is always self-awareness. Marginalization is built on a fear of those who are different. And we have learned to be racist. Go to Loveland's library and look critically at children's book portrayals of people of color. They're generally written from a European perspective. Learning communities are key to understanding. We need to get in dialogue with those who are different from ourselves. Staying connected during uncomfortable conversations is vital. They do get easier with practice. But conflict is inevitable. We must plan for it. And we need to fund our commitments. Are they just our words to make ourselves feel better? Anti-oppression is hard work. And I will end by saying that while there was lots of talk about damage to individuals, groups, and to our land, it's very important to state that the real message from GA was on healing and developing right relations. Our congregation is a community that supports and cares for each other. Please raise your hand now or indicate in the chat that you have a joy or sorrow to share. Unmute once you have so indicated, but please do not speak until I actually call on you. It will go faster if you're ready when I announce it's your turn. So please now indicate if you have a joy or sorrow to share. Cindy.
Hi, everybody. I'm Cindy Black. I'm part of the pastoral care team. I have a concern. Kathy Kipp, who is one of our members, called me last night. She had an accident in her backyard where she fell down just 2 days ago, and she broke one of her arms, and she's going to find out Monday if her other arm, the other elbow, is broken. So she has a cast on one arm and the potential of having a cast on both arms. So she's asking if we could bring her meals for one person, just for her. Her son lives there, but she doesn't want us to bring food for them because they eat differently than she does. And she's requesting finger kind of foods because she can't even cut meat. So I'm just putting that out there for anybody that would like to help her out. We would like you to call her in person if you're willing to help. That's all.
Thank you, Cindy. I don't see anything in the, oh, okay, over here, I'm sorry. Pedro, you have something to share, please.
Losing weight and sleeplessness And
Can't hear you, Pedro. Can you speak louder, please?
yeah, I'm not trying to get too loud here.
That's
my roommate's
better.
been having some health issues, and his white blood cell count is up. He's going in for some tests on Friday, so let's all think of him and try to give him our spiritual, emotional support.
And who was that again, Pedro?
My roommate.
Your roommate. Okay. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Elizabeth, you have a joy.
Yes, I previously expressed concern about my ex-husband, who is a doctor in the Ecuadorian Amazon, where COVID has been running rampant and there have been a lot of fires. And I just heard from him yesterday, and he is healthy, and the hospital is very busy, but he has been okay. So I'm very glad for that.
Great. Oh, good news. And Janet has a joy as well.
I do. Today is my youngest daughter, Sarah's birthday. She's 47, I think. I don't know how that happened when I'm only 50, but but there's that. I'm very happy that she's my daughter. And both of my daughters and my 3 granddaughters are all in California with their dad this weekend, seeing him probably for the last time. The other joy is that I have a furnace. My eldest daughter financed a furnace for me, so I do have heat. I'm not going to freeze to death this winter, so that's really good. Yay!
Yay, good for you, Janet. Good.
Thank you.
And Sid, you're with us again. I'm so glad to have you.
I think Frances Green had her hand up.
Well, Sid, are you still there? Not sure where Sid is. Okay, then Frances.
Mine is sort of a mixed joy and sorrow in that on Friday, Bob and I attended the funeral for my really dear friend, Charles Beck. I've read some of his poetry during open mic nights, and he was just an absolutely incredible person. I was able to read several of his poems during the service, and that was a joy. They were just well accepted, and it was a nice tribute to him. The whole service was just perfect for him, and his wife's handling it well. She got to watch it on Zoom. She's in a nursing home. So it was a mixed sort of thing. One other thing I want to say, I think it pertains to what we're talking about today, is I am just about finished reading the book Caste, C-A-S-T-E. And Bob and I think it should be required reading for every American. It's an incredible book about the caste system that exists in our country. And it's an excellent book. So reading it is not a joy, but it's important.
It is important. Thank you, Frances. Jennifer Buckmeyer. Jen, you need to unmute. Okay.
Yes, I just wanted to put a joy out there that my dad is turning 95 years old today. And he's actually pretty darn healthy for 95. Lives alone in the mountains.
Awesome. Awesome person. Great. Happy birthday to your dad. And Katie.
Hi, everybody. I have a joy that I just recently started my own line of jewelry, and it's now out in the ether, and I'm just really excited to start making my dream a reality, I hope. So anyway, it's all on Facebook for now. If you're interested, I have a page. Just wanted to share that. So thank you.
Okay, go to Katie's Facebook page. Brenda Christensen.
Hi, everybody. I got my heart MRI results back this week, and there's nothing terrible. So that's really good news. That's the last big test that I had waiting. So now the diagnosis is just chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. And so just learning to deal with those symptoms. But I just thank everybody for their notes and prayers and good juju.
Great. What a relief. Good news. Mostly Joyce today. That's awesome. All right. That's all I see in the chat room. Does anybody see anybody I missed? Dun, dun, dun.
Kent has something, Sally.
Yeah. What was that, Janen?
Kent.
Kent, do you have something to say?
Unmute Kent.
Kent, you need to unmute.
All right, that's it. Okay, how's that?
Okay, that's good.
Okay. Yes, as I mentioned maybe earlier, I'm being treated for prostate cancer in the hospital on Harmony Street, and there's other people there. And I've been handed by the person in charge of the hospital there, one of the sections, to find a medical durable power of attorney for healthcare decisions. And I've spent maybe the last week looking for people. I've left messages on phones, sometimes not returned. And I don't have family who can do that medical power of attorney, which means that if I were on the process of dying, but I couldn't speak, someone could speak on my behalf. And very important, but my family's not nearby. My daughter is in Honolulu, Hawaii with her husband. And I got some information from her. She said she thought it's possible. And I've heard of another person or two, but it took me a week to try to find that person. So if I were to die, but I couldn't talk, they could speak on my behalf. And I really need that if I were on a point where I was on death row. So I appreciate the answers, Brenda Buckmeyer, Jennifer Buckmeyer, and one or two others. But it was hard to get people to respond, and including Laurel Liefert. So I do have finally somebody that might do it, and that would be possibly Jennifer or my oldest daughter in Honolulu, Hawaii. Thank you for considering it, though, but it's been a real stress for me. Thank you very much.
I'm glad it's looking like you're finally getting some resolution with that, Kent. Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's an important consideration. Okay, and Kent, there's a note in the chat, if you don't see it from Chad, that he may have some resources to help you. So you maybe get in touch with Chad. Thanks, Chad. Okay, anybody else at this point?
Hey, Sally. Sally, it's Cindy.
Yes,
I see that Sid joined. I don't know if she has something to say.
Yeah, that's what I heard, but she didn't answer. So
hi. Hey, I'm so sorry, you guys. A cousin came to the door and I had to give him raspberries. So I had to step out of church for a few minutes. I just wanted to say hi, everybody. Gosh, it's good to see you all. I've missed you all so much. That's all. That's all I wanted to say. Okay. Hi.
All right, good. Thanks for bringing it up again, Cindy. Welcome back, Sid.
Yeah, I love you guys.
Okay. All right. I think that may bring it to a close unless anybody has anything else. Thank you all for sharing and for your support for Kathy and all the others of us in our community.
So Sally is the chair, the faithful chair of our pastoral care team. So thanks, Sally. And our musical response to Joys and Sorrows today was part of the GA Sunday morning worship. It's called Deep River, which is a traditional African-American spiritual, and it's sung here by Dr. Philip Rogers, who's the director of music at the Northwest Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Georgia, and he's accompanied by cellist Nivek Anderson. Our next reflection is called Institutional Change by Doug Stewart.
Organizations have always fascinated me. They almost seem like they have a life of their own. So when General Assembly offered several workshops on institutional change, I jumped at the chance. Turns out that the UUA, the Unitarian Universalist Association itself, is trying to make institutional changes. We here at Namaqua may be able to take advantage of some of the UUA's learnings. Now, for better and worse, institutional change is not easy. Like elephants, institutions have a great deal of momentum. Institutional momentum is good when it intensifies our values and carries them forward. Institutions can remember our values and amplify them beyond what any of us could do alone, even carrying these values forward beyond our lifetimes, a reason that some of us have remembered Namaqua and the UUA in our wills. But institutional momentum is a challenge when those values need to adjust direction or become more comprehensive. While we as a denomination have been in the forefront of fighting marginalization, we still have work to do, even within our own ranks. One incident in particular served as a wake-up call for the UUA itself. Back in 2017, a hiring decision for the Southern Regional Lead was widely perceived as being unfair to candidates of color. and as a result, several staff resigned. To its credit, the UUA's focused on better addressing marginalization of all types, especially multiculturalism and anti-racism. Not only to stand as a beacon for these ideals, like we have since 1965, March at Selma included included Unitarian Universalists, including a Unitarian Universalist minister who was murdered. So not only to take a stand as a beacon for these ideals, but to better walk our talk, especially when it comes to ourselves. At the most fundamental level, the UUA is reviewing its values, its very theology, and we here at Namakwa may learn from its introspection. While the UUA continues to hold as key each individual's search for truth and meaning, its emphasis on the value of community is deepening. For too long, the UUA is finding it itself has compartmentalized individual spiritual and religious growth on the one hand, and community and justice seeking on the other, almost as two separate worlds. Now it is working toward combining them to use justice seeking to deepen individual spiritual lives and a community's spiritual life. In particular, what do those of a different voice, the non-dominant voice, have to say to all of us? Could we more deeply explore liberation theology, which intentionally seeks to empower marginalized voices? How might Namakwa use the insights that the UUA is gaining to expand our understanding of marginalization and act as a justice-seeking people to better address it and deepen our own spiritual journey? I'll leave that question as a tease for a future Sunday service as we learn from the UUA's institutional change efforts.
Thank you, Doug. My taste of GA is a reflection called What Does Love Demand? Because one of the most significant institutional change efforts that the UUA has launched is to establish what it calls an Article 2 Study Commission. Article 2 is where the 7 UU principles and the 6 UU sources are located, and these are the foundation for all of the work that the UUA does and that UU congregations like Namakwa does. In establishing this study commission, the UUA board wrote that for some religious institutions, the equivalent of Article 2 would be regarded as a permanent statement of belief. Ours, however, is a living tradition. It's as Sally said, that UUism is a dynamic religion and must continue to evolve and support risk takers, or it will wither. We commit ourselves to continually examine our principles and purposes to see what's missing, what's no longer important, and whether the language communicates our core values to the current times. So the current times, the most recent blow of the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the current times are hard. The board calls this a time of great need, an ethical, moral, and spiritual crisis. Therefore, now is the time to review the foundation of our living tradition and to make changes that will inspire us to live into the Unitarian Universalism of the future, to be what the board calls a relevant and powerful force for spiritual and moral growth, healing, and justice. The UUA asserts that the proposed changes should articulate core UU theological values, and that one of our most important theological values is love. Think of the congregational affirmation that we recite together every Sunday, Love is the Spirit of this Church. And the lyrics to the song that was our opening song today, We Would Be One. As one, we pledge ourselves to greater service with love and justice. A study by Tufts University religious studies professor Robert Miller was included in a report by the Commission on Appraisal called Engaging Our Theological Diversity. And Miller found that UUs, us, ranked the values of loving and of mature love more highly than any other religious or non-religious group. Love is what guides us. And as Dr. Cornel West, the professor of philosophy at Union Seminary, often says, justice is what love looks like in public. So justice as love, love as justice. Doug mentioned that the core value, a core justice commitment of the UUA is to anti-racism, anti-oppression, and multiculturalism. The UUA board writes that this commitment is love in action and should be centered in any revision of Article 2. And so here, I want you to listen to this noble and powerful charge that the UUA board made to the Article 2 Study Commission. We therefore charge the commission to root its work in love as a principal guide, attending particularly to the ways that we and our root traditions have understood and articulated love, and how we have acted out of love. So to have love as our core value is something that makes me so proud to be a UU minister, and so proud to be a minister of a congregation like Namakwa. So I look forward to exploring this more with you in a later service, but also if any of you are interested in exploring our chosen faith and the 6 sources that are currently our sources, next Sunday after church, we'll begin a series of 4 classes called Exploring Our Chosen Faith. So if you are interested, please contact me. And now we come to one of the ways we walk our talk. You know what's coming is our offertory. So Sarah will post a donate button into the chat room. So any of you who would like to donate today can click on that link and follow the instructions. You can always mail something into the church. Our half-plate recipient this quarter is Neighbor to Neighbor. And those of you who get the Loveland Reporter Herald may have noticed there was a front page article on Friday about Neighbor to Neighbor, about how they've already given $1 million in rent assistance to area residents during the first 6 months of the pandemic. So this is already 4 times the amount that the agency provided in all of 2018 or 2019. So please be generous. And our offertory music is We Shall Be Known by the singing duo Mamoose. This song right now is widely circling the world, a medicine song about the great turning, a song of hope and change.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle around to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we cry. It is time we lead ourselves into the way. shall learn to lead in love.
We dedicate ourselves and these our offerings to the vision of this congregation, which is to radiate love, peace, and justice as together we work to build beloved community. So we have two more reflections. This next one will be by Margo Ervin, and her reflection is called Creating a Community of Communities. Margo?
Thanks, Laurel. I attended my first General Assembly this year, and I can say I really enjoyed all the lectures, workshops, and events I attended. The most memorable being the welcoming celebration with the beautiful ritual performed by the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe, the lecture on universal worship, which featured the dances of universal peace, the red tent I attended with 30 other women, and last but not least, the workshop on creating a community of communities. It's that last one that really left an impression on me, so that's the one I wanted to tell you about today. Creating a community of communities is simply a way to change how we identify ourselves as a church family to be more inclusive as a larger community that's made up of smaller communities within. And it's a twofold shift in that it's not just a different way for us to see ourselves, but also how we portray ourselves and help other people see us as a community of communities. Many churches are known for their music program, their RE program, their social justice committee, their gardening or book clubs. Those communities are doorways to invite the larger community in, which then becomes a bridge for people to learn about Unitarian Universalism and can lead to new membership. I'm especially excited for all of Namaqua's adult enrichment offerings coming out right now, because for many people, belonging and feeling connected is because they feel they're part of a smaller group within the church. For me, the most exciting aspect of creating a community of communities was the encouragement to also make those connections with surrounding UU churches. Clusters are smaller churches that together are able to talk about sharing their knowledge and talent, invite each other to services, book clubs, and all the various other things that they're doing, and create new opportunities together. In fact, there's clusters already forming throughout the country, with great examples in the Pittsburgh and Baltimore areas. The Unitarian Universalists of Greater Pittsburgh consists of over 1,100 UUs and 11 congregations. Their mission includes organizing and promoting opportunities for area UUs to cooperatively learn, play, worship, engage in service, and work for justice, as well as to increase the presence and impact of Unitarian Universalism in the Greater Pittsburgh region. We do have some experience with this with our annual tradition of a combined service with the Unitarian Universalist Church of Greeley. The Pittsburgh cluster says, "We're better together." And I can think of so many wonderful opportunities that might come out of a broad partnership like this. Stay tuned as Reverend Laurel and I explore this idea and reach out to the larger Northern Colorado region. Thank you.
Thank you, Margo. And some of you may recognize that Margo is sending out a lot of emails now. It's because not only has she been a member of Namaqua for many years, but recently she has been hired as our office administrator. Thank you, Margo. And our next and final speaker is our Director of Religious Education and Worship Associate, Janen, who will speak about gratitude as a spiritual practice.
Yes, and I've been grateful to hear everybody's report. When you go to GA, there's so many offerings that you can't get to all of them. So it's wonderful to hear from everybody. I'll start on a personal note. Shortly after I joined the UU 14 years ago, I got to go to General Assembly in Salt Lake City. And it was there that I attended a theology class given by Galen Gingrich that He was then the new senior minister of All Souls in New York. His workshop on God Revised helped me fit a lot of missing pieces together. And our paths just had a lot in common. I just felt like he met me right where I was at. And it was an amazing experience that I'll never forget. So 7 years after this GA, I flew out to Colorado to stay with Reverend Hal Lind and Reverend Nancy Bowen in order to interview to work as a DRE in Boulder. I'm sure many of you might know Hal and Nancy. Just after I moved my bags into their guest room, Reverend Hal told me that Galen Gingrich had just left their home and had stayed in the same room that I was now occupying. When I talked to my husband that night on the phone, I told him with great excitement, and guess what? I get to sleep in the same bed as Reverend Galen. My husband advised me to not say those words to anyone else ever again. But Reverend Galen continues to be a mentor to me. So I was so excited to see him on the program. I followed a lot of he writes columns and all sorts of things. He's wonderful. And I did take the opportunity to use the chat button there and just thank him for the influence that he's had over my life. I highly recommend his book, The Way of Gratitude, which I purchased as soon as I got off his workshop, and it's really good. So in a nutshell, Reverend Galen sought to broaden our view of gratitude. Gratitude is like love. We know there's many different kinds of love. Romantic love is different than family love, which is different than the universal love that we have for humanity. Well, gratitude's the same way. It's vast and it has many purposes. And gratitude is not just something that we feel when things are going good. It can also be a deep spiritual practice of embracing all of life, the good and the bad. The highest form of gratitude involves realizing that we're made up entirely of our relationships to everyone and everything else. And this can result in living with a deep sense of reciprocity and stewardship. The highest form of gratitude makes us take responsibility for this world as being our world and its problems, our problems. Of course, we can't do everything, but we can be about doing something all the time. My favorite thing that came from this talk and his book is his First Light spiritual practice. It's a 15-minute practice done at the start of each new day. You light a candle and you use an hourglass so that you don't have to look at your watch or anything. And it gives you the chance to let go of yesterday and set your intention for the new day. Instead of the track that you'd be on if you first listen to the news or get on your smartphone or any other device. And this is, in closing, I'll share with you the prayer that he offers to end this daily ritual. I love this prayer. It says, I receive the gift of this day with gratitude. I seek to accept all that is past. I seek to embrace all that is present. I seek to realize all that is possible, the clarity of truth, the joy of beauty, the satisfaction of justice, the lure of adventure, the fullness of peace. I seek to be worthy of the gift of this day.
Thank you, Janen. Our closing song today is one of our very favorites. It is Blue Boat Home, and in this version it is sung by Peter Mayer, the one who wrote the song, and there are slides by Scott McNeil. So please enjoy Blue Boat Home.
I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean. Still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Now it's time to extinguish our chalice, and I would like to leave you some words from Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the notorious RBG. When a thoughtless or unkind word is spoken, best tune out. Reacting in anger or annoyance will not advance one's ability to persuade. Dissents speak to a future age. It's not simply to say my colleagues are wrong and I would do it this way, but the greatest dissents do become court opinions. And finally, fight for the things that you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you. I'd like to offer again the closing prayer that Janen read, that Reverend Galen says at the end of his spiritual practice each morning. I receive the gift of this day with gratitude. I seek to accept all that is past. I seek to embrace all that is present. I seek to realize all that is possible. The clarity of truth, the joy of beauty, the satisfaction of justice, the lure of adventure, the fullness of peace. I seek to be worthy of the gift of this day. So may we seek to be worthy of the gift of this day. today we have a postlude that will be the postlude for all of the series of services. And it is by Emma's Revolution, a great friend of Unitarian Universalism. And this is their version of Keep On Moving Forward that was sung at the General Assembly Sunday morning worship.
Gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Never turning back. Never turning back. Sigamos adelante, siempre adelante, siempre adelante, sin volver atrás, sin volver atrás. Gonna keep on loving boldly. Keep on loving boldly. Keep on loving boldly. Never turning back. Never turning back. Amaremos con pasión. Siempre con pasión. Siempre con pasión, sin volver atrás, sin volver atrás. Gonna reach across our border, reach across our border, reach across our border. Never turning back, never turning back. Vivamos sin fronteras, siempre sin fronteras, siempre sin fronteras, sin volver atrás, sin volver atrás. Gonna reunite the family, reunite the family, reunite the family. Never turning back, never turning back. Familias reunidas, siempre reunidas, siempre reunidas, sin volver atrás, sin volver atrás. Gonna keep on moving forward, keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward, never turning back, 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 never turning back.
Peace.
We love you.
All right. We're going to keep on moving forward. So Kathy, you have a few announcements for us?
I have just a few announcements before we go. Next week, September 27th, the service will be renewal as a part of the Natural Circle of Life. worship associate Susan Moody and one of our new worship associates, Trish Murtha, about beginnings and endings in the natural world. So come back and join us for that. Laurel mentioned she's starting the series Exploring Our Chosen Faith, and that starts after church next Sunday. Email her for to sign up or to get more information. And remember to read the weekly email blast. It has all of our announcements in it. Reach out if you need us. And I think that's about all I have for announcements. So Sarah will be putting us into breakout rooms this morning, and we are going to ask you to think about and answer the question, what would entice you to go to General Assembly? Next year, possibly it's in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, so I'm going to be there for sure. So let's break out into those rooms and have a discussion.